All right, well, good morning, everyone. Thanks for coming here this morning. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to remind everyone to go ahead and silence their cell phones, and thankfully mine is. Meeting documents are available for review down next to where Commissioner Heiberger typically is. Commissioner Heiberger and Commissioner Karski are both gone today. They're both working on various aspects of the triage project with a group of people from Sioux Falls. Today, I think they're out in Charleston. So they are both gone today. Craig and Carol are here today if you need a listening device. And that will take us to our routine business. I'd consider a motion to approve our agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Next item is I'd consider a motion to approve the commission meeting minutes from June 4th, 2018.
So move.
Second.
Motion a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Next item is consider a motion to approve the bills in the amount of $460,462.04.
Pay the bills.
Second.
Motion is second. Any comments? Commissioner Barth?
Madam Chair, this week's bills include $191,000 transferred to Metro Communications, which includes a substantial portion from the city, but also our share.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. There's several reports there that I'd recommend for folks to look at. The Minnehaha County Coroner Report for April 2019, as well as the County Highway Report project update, shows a lot of work being done this summer by the Highway Department, and it's really a great way to keep tabs on what roads are getting improved this year and what roads are not. You might want to avoid for a while during the construction season. Next item is personnel actions. I'd consider a motion to approve routine personnel actions.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Next item is to consider a motion to approve hiring Michelle Boyd as the Sheriff's Office Programs and Services Manager. Carrie Deaver, good morning.
Good morning, Carrie Deaver from Human Resources. This is a special commission action request because Michelle is retiring this Friday, and this would allow her to start as a variable hour or a part-time employee next Monday. We're anticipating this will be about a 3-month part-time basis, and then she'll convert full-time to that new role.
Who would move for approval?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any comments? Commissioner Barth?
I just would say Michelle has been a very valuable member of our county administration for all the time I've known her, and I know that she's done great work in the past and will do great work going forward.
Thank you.
I would second that. She's obviously a class act with a stressful job, and I'm glad that she's able to move to this position to help us with some community service programs.
It's absolutely unanimous up here then that she's a very valuable member of our team and the sheriff's team. So I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank
Thank
you. Next item is abatements recommended for approval. I think we can take these as one motion. So we have two different parcels, parcel ID 39764 for veterans tax exemption and parcel ID 39764 for veterans tax exemption. Those are for 2014 and 2015 property taxes. Take a motion. Go ahead.
Would move for approval?
I would second that. I'd ask Chris a question, though.
Okay. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning, Chris Lilly, Equalization. Yes, sir.
So, being as these are for veterans, is it the transition from the veteran passing away to the spouse? Is that
Yes,
where
yes.
the
So
ball-
this one here has been an ongoing one, just to give you a little background. The veteran received the exemption, and at the time, and he'd got it with his spouse, he'd passed away. There was no surviving spouse law in effect at that time.
Oh.
And so then, like a year and a half after he had passed away, the surviving spouse law came into effect, but we didn't have an application on file. You know, it wasn't like it is today, where if he passed away, it would just continue on to the surviving spouse. There, he got it, he passed away, The spouse did not receive it because there was no law at that time. Then the law came into effect later. So what I did is I took it upon myself to initiate an abatement process, and I went back 3 years, and we've already approved those 3 years. But with that, the city attorney then said, why aren't we going all the way back? So conferring with that, we decided that we could do that, but they needed to do that request, so we did. So we went clear back to 2010 when the law came into place. Now we've conferred again, and you're gonna have some other ones, the 10, 11, 12, and 13 years that are gonna be coming, that now we've discovered that they're limited through that limitation of abatement. So there's gonna be some more coming that I'm gonna be recommending for a denial on this, but these are the last of the approvals. So 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18 have already, or will be approved, so.
Madam Chair, you know, with the property tax freeze for the elderly, you have to apply every year, but this is a one-time deal.
This is a one-time deal. Yep, no annual application on this. As long as the class doesn't change, the ownership doesn't change, they don't move, things like that, so.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Roll call vote, please.
Barth,
Aye.
Benega,
Aye.
Bender.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Next item is notices and requests. There are none. Item 8, planning and zoning notices. There are none. Item 9, petition for compromise of lien. There are none. And this takes us to opportunity for public comment. If there's anyone here today who'd like to speak about an item that's not on the agenda, this is your opportunity. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Tom Lawrence, 5120 South Greystone Avenue. I'm here representing SDVoice.org. Since the 1890s, South Dakotans have had the right for initiative and referendum to place ballot questions before the voters. We're the first state in the union to have this. It's a cherished South Dakota right. It's been used many times over the years, been supported by Republicans, Democrats, Independents, like myself, people of all political stripe. That right is being severely restricted by the South Dakota state government. We, with SDVoice.org, are trying to return to the law as we've had it for 120 years. We're asking people to sign petitions, both referendum and initiative, to restore your rights. If the law goes into effect, people will have to wear a government-issued badge. Right now, currently, you have to ask permission to circulate petitions. That's never happened before. They're asking you to list your home, your phone number, your email address. I signed up some 70, 80-year-old women to circulate petitions for us last week. We have more than 200 people around the state circulating our petitions. They're afraid about putting their personal information out there, but they're still doing it because they realize it's the right thing to do. We must turn back this government intrusion upon our rights. We've had the right to petition our government, to place issues before us on the ballot since the earliest days of statehood. We're losing that. And that's why SDVoice.org is asking people to sign these petitions, to sign these questions, to get these 2 on the ballot for 2020. That's what we came here for today, to ask you as a panel, as individuals, as citizens, and as South Dakotans to support this. This is very important to us. This is not a partisan issue. We accept support, and we're getting it from Democrats and Republicans and Independents. People must have our rights restored. What the legislature has done to us these last 2 years is flies in the face of our state's tradition. This has been an issue that's helped people in many ways to say, wait a minute, the legislature, the government is not responding to us. I want to put an issue on the ballot. Now it's been severely restricted. It's very cumbersome now to do this, but we're still making these efforts because we believe people should have this right. So thank you. I want to come forward today and ask for your support. Also ask for your signatures. I know that Commissioner Barth has already signed these, and I wish other people here would as well. I will be available here today. We have people across the community and across the state collecting these signatures. We have until June 27th to turn these in. We do feel if we get on the ballot, we'll win. South Dakotans want to have their rights. They want to have a right to petition the government and make their voices heard. Why is it being blocked? It's happening nationwide by a large group that's trying to stifle the voice of the people. We're trying to restore this. It's a right that we've had since the 1890s. Let's not lose it now in the 21st century. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here who would like to speak during public comment about an item not on the agenda? All right. That takes us to regular business. The first item is a public hearing to consider an application for the special on-sale liquor license for Prairie Pasta, Inc. for an event on September 14th, 2019. Olivia.
Yes, Prairie Pasta Inc. has been hired to cater a wedding at the Riviera Event Center on September 14th. So this is their application so that they could sell liquor at the event.
Okay, thank you. If the applicant is here, they could speak. Is there anyone here who's opposed to this application? This would be your opportunity to speak.
Madam Chair, a question for Olivia. No one has objected to this, right, with the Sheriff's Department or anything?
Correct. I have not received any objections or concerns from any of the departments.
I'd make a motion, Madam Chair, to approve the special on-sale liquor license for Prairie Pasta for an event September 14th.
Second?
Motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Yes. Benega?
Aye.
Barth?
Aye.
Bender?
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Next.
Madam Chair, I'd just
Yes.
make a comment that for those of us, for those watching us, I'm sure the tens of thousands, with only 3 commissioners here, we have to act with unanimity. And so keep an eye on us.
I will do that. It's easier because I don't have to look down both sides. I can just keep my eye right on you two troublemakers. So, all right, that takes us to item 11, which is a presentation on St. Francis House statistics for restitution and fine payments to South Dakota counties. Julie Becker, good morning.
Julie Becker, Executive Director of the St. Francis House, 1301 East Austin. I come to you today to present some information. We just got done with our United Way application presentation, and many of the people on our basic needs panel suggested that we provide some of this information in detail to more of our city government people as well as our county government. And so what St. Francis House is about, besides our zero tolerance and people being required to work, we also require our guests to pay their debts back to society. And one of those key components, as you can see here, is they have to pay their restitution and fines back to South Dakota counties. So fortunately, I had an intern who I gave this nice assignment to go back into our financials to look at what we've paid starting July 1st of 2015 to January of this year. And we have paid just over $659,000 back to South Dakota counties on our guests' behalf, with almost $195,000 of that being to Minnehaha County. And I will tell you that this information is to provide to you so you know what is being given back to the county and that we're holding people accountable. But I also believe that this is one of the key components that has been very successful in our capital campaign to build a new facility, that we've raised that $5.5 million in approximately 9.5 months, because we had that period with United Way that we weren't able to raise the funds. So our basic needs team wanted us to present this to the county to say, were you aware of this? And that we wanted to continue to be a partner with the county to show that as an agency, we are holding our guests accountable. So, any questions?
Any questions?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Barth?
Julie, it's good to see you again. Tell me how you are able to, say, get these funds from your clients.
Well, when our guests are working, they are required to deposit 100% of their income in an account that we establish at the St. Francis House. And 50% of that they cannot touch, because when they leave, those are the funds that we want them to pay for their own rent and deposit instead of going down to County Human Services asking for help. The other 50%, that is what they have to budget, just like the rest of us do, to paying their debts. And so this is what we do, is we get the information from the clerk of courts as well as the county auditor, and we find out how much they owe, and then we make a payment plan that when they're with us, we want them to be paying off as much as possible. We had one lady who stayed with us almost a year, and she was debt-free with Minnehaha County, and she paid $11,000 back. That's what her total bill was with the county.
Madam Chair. Let me just say that we are very appreciative of people that make regular payments and stuff on their liens with the county, and certainly we're ready to give them a little more latitude than those that suddenly show up with an inheritance and don't want to pay anything.
Right.
So I appreciate that work, and by holding on to their money, you don't let them subscribe to too many magazines or go on a trip to Vegas.
What I tell people is I have 2 kids at home and I have 80 at the St. Francis House, and we all fight about money because they want these things, and we teach them that you can have those things, but we have to pay our debts first. And they're not saying that they can't have a cell phone because many employers want that now, but you have to have it in a budget. Can you afford it? And so if they submit what is called a money request to pull money out of their part, they can. There has to be debt on there. I don't know about everyone else, but when I get my paycheck, I have to pay my debts first, and then I see what's left over to do the fun stuff. And so those are the skills that we're trying to teach, so that when they leave us, they continue in that pattern that we've helped them learn. So,
I would just say
Commissioner
congratulations on your capital campaign and your success at doing this, because frankly, it helps the county. But more importantly, if we could get you to go around to many other agencies that, I think we have, what, $40 million in debt that's not been paid back?
well, and the guest will be the first one to tell you, if you wouldn't have made me pay it, I wouldn't have paid it. But I'm glad you did, because now I don't have that weight on my shoulder. And we're partnering as well with Minnehaha County Human Services. So when our guests have gone down before they became resident at our facility, they got to be paying those back as well. But we've started with the restitution so that we're getting that money back into the counties, so then the counties can do other good things for people, so.
You might want to teach classes for us and then have a second kind of income for your organization and some of the debt that you collect.
Well, it's not easy, but we've got a pretty fine-tuned machine now of showing them that, this is their money and how it grows, and partnering with some of the financial institutions in our community to teach them, because they don't always want to listen to me, but if someone else comes in, it reinforces what we're trying to teach, so.
Well, thank you for taking the
Yes.
time to come here this morning.
Yes, no
I agree
problem.
that this is
Well, and we're
Um,
going to continue to keep doing this, so.
all right. Thank
Okay,
you very much.
Thank you, have a good day.
Okay, that takes us to item 12, which is I'd consider a motion to authorize the chairperson to sign amendment number 2 to the Joint Security Protection Agreement between the State of South Dakota, Department of the Military, and Minnehaha County. Keith Winya, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Commissioners. Keith Winnie, Air Guard Division Supervisor. This amendment, the second amendment, is to decrease the initial funding amount, $4,169.01 from the original agreement price. This is a typical funding move that they do each and every year. It's just the price difference between what the NGB, National Guard Bureau, sets forth in the original agreement, and then when the federal funding drops down, that's the price difference. So if you remember last year in June, there was a price adjustment of $465. So we do it every year. It's just whatever actual money the feds send down to compare it to with whatever it says in our agreement. That's the price adjustment. So this one is just for the chairman to sign the agreement with that price change of a deduction of $4,169.01.
Are there any questions for Keith? Bless you.
I would make a motion to approve the Air Guard Protection Agreement amendment.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. And then you get another one.
Yeah.
So you could go
This
ahead.
one is number 3, and this will give us an additional $109,000, or $109,800. So they would take away $4,000 and they give us back $109,000. So that's kind of nice, right? So that will leave our final budget at $1,026,000. This will be more than enough to cover all our expenses for the year. In fact, we'll probably have a surplus in personnel services money at the end of the year, so we'll come up with projections too. That way we can probably utilize that money to buy needed equipment for the officers out there and stuff like that. But that will come at a later date as soon as we get those projections done for you. So, but my request is the chairman sign that agreement as well.
Madam Chair, gives me great pleasure to make this motion and accept more money.
I'll second that.
Yeah, not a bad deal. I think this is the kind of thing that mystifies taxpayers about the lots of forms of government, but I'm certainly not going to be one to object to it either. So I have a motion and a second. Any further comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you
All
very
right,
much.
thank you.
Mhm. Next item is to consider bid results and award recommendations for jail kitchen equipment. Warden Gromer.
Good morning, Jeff Gromer, warden at the jail. I've got a couple of bid responses back that I'd like to ask approval to enter into the contracts to acquire the equipment. The first would be the kitchen equipment. We put out a bid for a large number of, a bid request for a large number of kitchen equipment to kind of go along with the jail expansion and outfit the kitchen for the increased number of inmates. That bid came back with Cooks Incorporated providing the lowest bid with exactly the requested items, and I'd like to move forward with arranging a purchase agreement with Cooks to acquire those items.
Any questions for Warden Gromer?
My only question, Jeff, would be, was there a line item in the budget that addressed this particular amendment?
We have a line item in our FF&E budget for the jail expansion, as well as, if you recall, I asked to carry over some 2018 budget surplus to apply to 2019. The question that I would figure out with the group working on the jail expansion would be whether we use FF&E funds for this particular purchase or use the carried over funding. And I don't think it really matters because it's likely all going to be used at some point in time. It's just a question of which to use first.
Thank you. Make a
Any-
motion to approve the
Second.
jail kitchen equipment bid.
I was anxious to second that.
So we have a motion and a second to award the bid to Cooks Direct, Inc.
Correct.
Roll call vote, please.
Barth,
Aye.
Benega,
Aye.
Bender.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. That takes you to your next item, which was
The next item is along the same line. It's a request to move forward with the purchase of some furniture for the new jail. This would be inmate-specific furniture, specifically tables, chairs for the new jail, as well as inmate property totes. That was put out to a bid, and Norix Group Incorporated responded with the bid that most closely met the criteria requested in the bid specification. What it comes down to is these are tables that are made out of some sort of plastic that's able to hold sand as a ballast to make them heavy, too heavy for inmates to pick them up and move them around easily, but yet still able to be moved with some effort if we need to make some adjustments to the configuration within the jail.
There questions for Warden Gromer?
Struggling not to say something, but I'll make a motion to approve this contract.
Second.
It's a motion and a second. And I would just clarify that my understanding is the reason the Pheasant Land bid was non-conforming is because they didn't include the type of table that you just described.
Correct. The Pheasant Land bid didn't conform to the specifications. They bid a metal table that bolts to the floor, which dramatically reduces our flexibility to make adjustments to the configuration of those once they're installed.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Benega,
Aye.
Barth,
Aye.
Bender.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay, so that takes us to item 16, and we consider the following motions on 4 Highway Department capital assets. DJ Boothie, good morning.
Morning, Commissioners. DJ Boothia, Highway Superintendent. We have a number of different requests today from the Highway Department regarding some surplus items that we have gotten rid of over the last several months. The first one is asset number 1063. It was a 2013 skid steer that was flooded during a flooding event. And we've been negotiating with Claims Associates an insurance claim for replacing that or for receiving reimbursement for the value of that piece of equipment. We've successfully negotiated that and received a check in the amount of $58,500, requesting commission action to direct which fund to deposit that insurance payout into. And as you're aware, the commission has the ability via statute to deposit it into the fund that was used to purchase that equipment originally, which would be the highway fund, or any other fund in the county government. So I'm requesting you to deposit that into the highway fund, and I will stand by for any questions on this particular item.
Any questions for DJ?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Barth?
So declaring them surplus and the, is one motion, or is the distribution of the funds a second motion, or is it all one?
It can be either. So I would entertain one motion if somebody's inclined to do so.
I'll make a motion to declare these as surplus and to designate the funds to the highway department.
Is there a
Madam Chair,
second?
I will second that, although I think I believe that the general fund is in greater need of funding than the highway fund. And I will have a comment also.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second and a comment.
DJ, how did these pieces of equipment happen to be flooded?
This particular item was being used on a construction site last fall during a large rain event, or before a large rain event, and the operators parked it, I would say 150 feet away from the bridge that they were working on, and the water raised so fast, so high, that it actually undertook the entire piece of equipment. We have pictures of it with just the very top of the roof of the probably 6.5 foot tall skid steer that's barely sticking out of the water. And so we did an investigation. We don't think that there was significant negligence or anything like that by the employee, but it was caused by a flooding event.
Madam Chair, I just would comment that I've heard citizens complain that they think that some other equipment and other groups might have been left intentionally to be knocked out in order to be replaced with new. I certainly don't believe that in your case, and I certainly support what we're doing.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any further comments?
I'll
Commissioner
just make
Benega.
my annual comment about that. Jeff's comment in reference to the funding source. I don't believe that highway department funds were designated originally to be used as a fundraising source for other departments. And frankly, I do agree that the general fund does need the money more than the highway department, but they were designated for a reason, and I think they need to be returned to that fund.
I would comment that I appreciate Commissioner Barth being a team player today, because I know that that is his thinking, and that typically the remainder of the commissioners, while they agree with the sentiment, believe that the funding source is the highway department, and we should not take advantage of that, similar to what Commissioner Benega said. So, because we need unanimous votes today, I appreciate that. All right, so I have a motion, a second. Any further comments? Roll call vote, please.
Barth,
Aye.
Benega.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. So that takes us to the next item.
The next item is for asset 1029. It was for GPS survey equipment. We have previously declared this one as surplus. We received bids on March 6th, and the high bid that was accepted was $13,500, and we have received the check for that, and so we're requesting commission action to direct into which fund to deposit the proceeds of that sale, $13,500.
Same song.
I'll make a motion to designate the highway department for the auction proceeds.
I'm a team player. I'll second it.
I very much appreciate that. Motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Benega.
Aye.
Barth.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Next item, item C.
Item C is for asset numbers 1032 and 1033. There were two variable message boards that we declared surplus for the sale to the city of Brandon for $10,000 each. We've received their check for $20,000 and requesting commission action to direct which fund to deposit those funds into.
Motion to approve.
Second?
Motion and a second. Any comments? Roll call vote, please.
Barth,
Aye.
Benega,
Aye.
Bender.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Takes you to your last one.
The last one is for a Sterling plow truck. We auctioned this off and declared it surplus and auctioned it on Iron Planet in January. And the funds received from that auction minus the fees and the commission that was paid to Iron Planet is for a total of $12,270, and requesting commission action for direction for which fund to deposit those funds into.
I'll make a motion to designate the highway department for the auction proceeds of the Sterling plow truck.
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Benega,
Aye.
Barth,
Aye.
Bender.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much.
Madam Chair, just so that our audience understands, with 3, we do have to act with unanimity, but also the chair cannot make a motion or second a motion. And so Gerald and I have to do all this extra work.
I was going to say, you get all the fun over there. So
But anyway, that's part of the deal today.
we all have rules we have to follow. So, all right, thank you for clarifying that. All right, that takes us to item 17, which is a brief presentation on the Minnehaha County Board of Illness. Jim Oste, good morning. I purposely did not eliminate that word when I read that out loud, so.
Good morning. My name is Jim Oste, and I'm one of the co-chairpersons of the Minnehaha County, Lincoln County Board of Mental Illness. I don't really believe in arguing each line item of a budget proposal, so I took an alternate route of harvesting some statistics. That harvesting has been underway for a long time, several years, and I perhaps want to make a record of the fact that I've never billed for the time I spent trying to harvest these statistics. It is too time-consuming to do that. There we go. Can you manipulate this for me, please, and bring up the first page? I labeled each page as an unofficial set of statistics because I don't know any other way to do it. I don't think there is such a thing as an official statistic for our board. The unified judicial system can come up with some statistics which perhaps could be referred to correctly as official, but I don't think I can. Different sources come up with different numbers, and you could, if you studied this hard enough, find some of those discrepancies yourself. So I choose to call them unofficial. The discrepancies are small in the greater scheme of things. The first document that I submitted to you is a budget dollar per petition analysis from 2007 until 2018. 2007 was a year when you and Scott Peters, my predecessor, put into play the Minnehaha County Mental Health Services website and the File Vista Law Enforcement electronic petition filing websites. And that's probably the beginning of when we could have statistics that we could really look at and talk about and think about and rely upon. This particular document relates to Minnehaha County petitions exclusively. It does not include Lincoln County petitions, which many of our mental health services website columns do relate to. So you can see in 2007, we had 962 Minnehaha County petitions. We had a annual budget of 700,000 plus, which by my math yields a cost per petition of $744. The one thing I would say to you is that is slightly more, $44 more than what a one-night stay at the psych hospital would cost for a Medicare rate for an uninsured patient. That's a pretty modest figure, I submit to you. As you go through the years, you can see that the budget increased, as did the number of petitions filed in Minnehaha County cases. And if we could scroll that up to get to the current years, you can see that we've gotten up to 439 petitions, which would show that we had a 477 petition increase over those 12 years. That would be just shy of 50% increase in activity. You would note again then, by dividing the budget of 1.130 by 1,439 petitions in Minnehaha County, you come up with a cost per petition of $785. And you can see in some of the intervening years, like 2012, 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17, that the cost per petition was considerably higher. I would submit to you that the Board of Mental Illness's work has been good and has been efficient economically in that regard, despite the fact that everything else in the world is going up. So I secondly submit to you that if that's the case, then you should not be too alarmed or surprised if the next budget request is yet higher than the 1.130. Questions, comments on this page?
Any questions?
I'm not sure this is the only measure of looking at how your money is spent. I don't have the economic background to make that submission, but I think it's a helpful way to look at what your board is doing. The cost per petition was going up, and now we've got it down quite a ways, and that is a favorable accomplishment.
Jim, I'm just curious about trends and, you know, the increase in the number of petitions, and if you have any feel or explanation for the cause of that and where it's going.
I think it would be a feel rather than anything tangible that anybody could point to, but it's all going up. I don't know, in the same sense that we have more child sex crimes, we have more pornography prosecutions, we have more drug cases. It seems like some of the ill elements of our society are increasing, and this is one of them. I think the education has raised the sensitivity of the public to the idea that maybe their spouse or child or parent isn't just a criminal, but rather they have a mental illness, a true inherent illness which causes their behavior to be such. So I think the numbers are going to go up. I think you compound that when you realize that the abuse of drugs, both illegal and prescription, is very much occurring. And we don't, as a society, state, local, federal, really know what to do about that. We don't handle it very well, I submit. The increase in the number of substance-induced delirium illnesses is profound. It's very hard to keep track of that. I couldn't quote you numbers, but I could give you my feeling that we see it every day, and that it's presented in the form of a patient who is very manic and agitated and angry and obviously not normal, and they're hospitalized for several days, and they meet a psychiatric diagnosis of substance-induced psychosis, and then it's almost like flipping a light switch, and they wake up and, what am I doing here? What do you mean I said that? What do you mean I did that? And then they're basically free or safe to go about their affairs.
Okay, thank you.
I don't see any great hope for our community or any other community in decreasing these numbers. They're going to go up just like the work of the state's attorney's office continues to multiply. The next document is statistics by month for the 12 years since we started having a website. You can see, and these numbers would be joint Minnehaha and Lincoln County numbers. They're not just Minnehaha's. And that's in spite of the fact that Lincoln County does not cooperate very thoroughly with this resource. Nevertheless, you can see in the 2007 and the 2008 column that a monthly number of 100 or more was fairly rare, not common by any means. And then if you go out to 16, 17, and 18, you see where we are setting new records every month with the total number of petitions that are submitted to us in the joint Minnehaha-Lincoln County Board. Besides the general increase in the numbers of people who meet criteria, this is a confirmation of the HSC crisis that I've been talking to you folks about for 4 or 5 years. I think it was in September of 2015, about a year after I started, HSC decided that they were going to shut down several units. They didn't have enough doctors, enough nurses, enough staff. They reduced the number of beds. Unlike previous days where if the board chair or the board believed that a person deserved long-term psychiatric hospitalization, and they could send just about everybody they wanted down to HSC at a cost differential of about $600 a month rather than $700 a night at the Sioux Falls hospitals, be they Avera or Sanford. We don't have that we don't have that resource, that privilege, that horribly huge money-saving opportunity. And that caused us to keep more patients here. We couldn't get them down there. We couldn't release them out of concern for the fact that they met criteria and they were dangerous to themselves or others or unable to care for themselves. So the numbers just kept going up. And we engaged in pretty serious quarrels with HSC about the medical stability of people. HSC, on their part, did come up about that time and make a contract with Avera Behavioral Health, whereby they agreed, once they had cleared or accepted a patient submitted by a county board of mental illness, they would pay the Avera Behavioral Health Center instead of the county, which was valuable for us. But during those times is when they practiced medical stability as a bar to accepting Minnehaha County patients and paying for them. So we had many, many quarrels. You can see that we went from, well, what is the average? I don't even think the average is about 90 or less per month to begin with, which would average about 3 patients per day. It went up to 2,104 in 2018, which is 175 per month on the average, which is a slightly less than 6 patients per day. So you went from, if they were all uninsured, 3 times 700, 3 times 94 for a QMHP evaluation, 3 times 3/10 or 4/10 of an hour for the board chair, 3 times 10 or 15 or $20 for the sheriff who ran around gathering paper, bringing it to the chairperson, and then going and serving it on the patient. You went from that number to doubling that number. That's a significant effect on the budget. I don't think the annual budget doubled, even though the numbers greatly increased. Questions about the stats per month? Yes, sir.
Jim, when you look at the difference in the growth in Lincoln County and Minnehaha County at the bottom of that page, I mean, we've had some growth, especially in 2018, but Lincoln County's had 300% growth.
We have to go to the next page. Minnehaha County, Lincoln County annual petition totals. It took manual labor to separate the Minnehahas from the Lincolns in those prior years. But you can see there exactly what you're saying. Lincoln County was doing 100, maybe getting up to the 200 range for several years. Then we got up to 2015 and the process of HSC crisis occurred, and they made the contract with the Vera Behavioral Health Center. And in effect, they became HSC North. And they started referring patients from all over South Dakota to a Vera Behavioral Health Center. They went from not having every bed in use every day to frequently having a pretty good attendance. And Lincoln County became Yankton County. Yankton County, of course, has the Human Services Center. Their Board of Mental Illness has to handle all the cases and work for patients coming from all over South Dakota. And now Yankton County shares that heavy burden, expensive burden, with Lincoln County. Fundamental in the law of mental illness is that the county where the patient is hospitalized or detained has the primary jurisdiction to administer that patient's case. Primary in that law is the fact that the county of residence of the patient is responsible to pay for nearly all of the mental illness expenses that are incurred in a commitment process. So, yes, our friends next door south suffered huge shock. They're still thunderstruck by what has happened. Their increase is huge.
Is there any explanation for that growth other than what you've already talked about?
No, that's HSC North coming to 69th and 5 blocks west of Louise. Literally, analogously, a second state psychiatric hospital showed up in Lincoln County. They diminished all their beds in Yankton so they couldn't hold all the people they used to, and now they send a good portion of their referrals to Avera Behavioral Health in Lincoln County.
Any other questions?
Well, my question is, does Yankton County North take Medicaid patients?
Yep. But they have the beauty of being able to hold the county of residence for those out-of-county patients coming to them, responsible for paying for the board expenses, board chair, QMHP, sheriff's service of process, 3-member board hearings with prosecutors and defense lawyers and court reporters or recordings. They can bill those other counties for that. But it takes a mechanism inside your auditor's office to handle that. Lincoln County's an old hand, or Yankton County's an old hand at that. They're good at it. They got it down to a business. Lincoln County's just learning and they're struggling. They don't like it. They like to do anything to figure out a way to make this less expensive, and There are very few ways to make this less expensive. It is what it is.
Commissioner Barth.
Jim, thanks for this presentation. Has the mobile crisis team helped us, prevent some of these hospitalizations?
Immensely, immensely. They probably safely de-escalate and divert just shy of 500 patients per year. In other words, if it weren't for mobile crisis, the 1,439 petitions for Minnehaha County in 2018 would be a lot more like 1,939. So the wisdom of bringing that in, starting in 2011 and gradually building it up to make it full-time was a great step in progress. Fantastic. I suppose I've exceeded brief by a good bit, but usually I do. And I'm not gonna change either, so all
Well,
I can do is
we
apologize.
appreciate all the work you did on these statistics, because this was helpful, gives us a real visible,
But we look at a couple things. Let's go to the next page, and let's go to 2 pages. Let's go to 2018. Yep. Okay, in the NI column, that's no insurance. When you go down to the bottom of that column, you will see that there was, 509 patients, and this is out of the Minnehaha County numbers, because Lincoln County doesn't play ball and submit information. But 509 out of 1,439 were uninsured. That comes up to 35% of the people. That means for each one of those patients, basically, you paid about $1,000 for the initial night's stay at the hospital, the required 24-hour QMHP evaluation, the 3 to 4/10 of an hour of board chair involvement, $20 maybe worth of sheriff's involvement, plus some, I'll call them incidental, but that's not accurate, not correct. Some medical bills for testing and such. That's a significant figure. There's a column headed with 0. That is a column I dreamt up for being a person who had no prior history with the Minnehaha-Lincoln County Joint Board of Mental Illness. In other words, they're a first-time recipient of emergency mental illness services. And you see the number down at the bottom there of 1,351. 1,351 out of, what was that first number? 2,100, just shy of 2,100? 1,351 are people who've never before been in the mental illness system. One of the things that says to me is that business is going to keep getting good because you're going to have people who, for the first time in their life, experience a psychiatric crisis that a doctor in a hospital or a law enforcement officer out on the street thinks is so impaired and dangerous as to require involuntary detention. So I think those are really important numbers, and that's why I wanted to go way beyond brief and explain that to you. It's not going to diminish, despite good things like mobile crisis, which tries to divert people who are in a first-time crisis, which may be more social than genuinely psychiatric.
Well, we appreciate this. This has been great information. I guess it gives us something to think about. I think these kinds of things can be depressing, but at the same time, the the great thing is that this is available to folks that are having, I think a lot of us can expect to have a family member who does get into a crisis situation, and it's good to know that there is a method and a mechanism that the county supports to try to get services that are needed for those folks. And, be it mobile crisis or be it your board, that is available. And I don't think any of us think this is a problem that's going away, but we appreciate the work that you do. And I really appreciate these statistics. I want to spend a little more time with them. I think that there's lots to be learned there. So we appreciate the manual labor that went into it. So thank you.
Madam Chair, I
Commissioner
would
Bright.
just say, I think that most of our citizens in Minnehaha County don't understand that we have this burden as a county, and that the tons of money we spend on it. But it also relates to, on a statewide level, where the administration and the legislature have abdicated their responsibilities for HSC, for Redfield, for the penitentiary, for the highway, and guess who gets to pick it up? We do, in the county. And by the way, they've never given us any more money sufficient to cover these expenses. But I think that we as citizens need to demand that those that we send to peer do something.
That they didn't raise their taxes and they had a balanced budget doesn't tell the story at all. They dumped it on you.
Let me
Thank you.
tell one more little story here.
Commissioner, well, can we let
Yeah,
Commissioner Benega
sure.
go first?
Jim, if I could ask just one quick question to make sure I understand that comment, but does the mobile crisis team attend every petition that you've recorded here?
No. By statute, only a QMHP in a hospital can summon mobile crisis assistance when that cop or QMHP doctor, if you will, in the
Okay.
hospital, believes they have probable cause to put somebody on a hold. We are extremely fortunate to have the law enforcement response that we have in our community, by the city and by the county. I mean, they are doing it. They are really invested and committed to making this work, and they do make it work. The QMHPs in the hospitals, the ERs, the hospitals themselves are not so committed. They do not make use of it. They will not allow a mobile crisis team member to enter their facility to engage in de-escalation or diversion efforts. I suppose it's because they're not employees, they're not trained, they're not insured. They have an unusual, excessive fear of being sued for malpractice. If you say, I have the flu so bad I wish I was dead, they will put you on a hold, which is not the meaning of dangerous mental illness at all.
Thank you.
Commissioner Barth?
This is an anecdotal thing, but when Gordy Swanson was our chief civil deputy, there was a case down at HSC where someone from another county checked in down there and then got a visit from an elected official in their county and told him, don't tell him you're from here, tell him you're from Minnehaha County. And otherwise we're going to cut your family off of the assistance we're currently giving them. And the guy changed his story and claimed to be from Minnehaha County. True story. Anyway.
All right, thank
One
you.
of the things I do is check out those kind of stories. I have the best law enforcement in the world to check them for me for the most part too, so.
All right, well, thank you. Thank you for taking the time to be here. That takes us to item 18, consider a motion to approve the 2020 to 2022 Minnehaha County Deputies Association contract. Carol Muller.
Good morning, Commissioners. Carol Muller, Commission Office. I am pleased to bring to you today, on behalf of the county's negotiating team, a contract for the Minnehaha County Deputies Association, and this would be effective basically for 2020, 2021, and 2022. So it's a 3-year contract. We have some some changes in reclassifications that came along with this that were supported across the board by people. Reclassifying the pay grade for certified civil process servers from a grade 13 to a grade 14.
reclassifying correctional systems operators from a pay grade of 9 to a pay grade of 10, and we are eliminating the correctional officer in training classification and converting employees to pay grade 13. So we're pleased to bring that forward. Along with that, the pay matrix is basically what we refer to as a 3-2, 1.5, 3% first year, 2%, then 1.5%. And we do have language in there, which we've always had, which is that if there is a general increase given by the commission to the general employees, that the union members would receive that also. Adam Jiska is here today from the Deputies Association and speak very highly of their group and the work that they do. So for you, ask your signature on this.
Any questions for Carol this morning? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
I would make a motion to approve, and I do have a comment.
Second.
Motion and a second. So Commissioner Benega?
Well, I would just say in the length of time that I've been around, I have to tell you, your staff, Adam and his group, this has been the most smooth, friendly, complete contract in a short period of time that we've ever had, and we do appreciate that very much. It's been awesome to have everybody's buy-in, so to speak, right from the beginning, and I'm glad it all worked out.
Any other comments?
Thanks to both teams.
Absolutely. All right, so I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Next item is to consider a motion to support partnership with UJS for the August 13th and 14th conference on improving criminal justice system for individuals with mental illness. Carol Muller.
Thank you, Commissioners. Carol Muller, Commission Office. Before you today is a request from the Unified Judicial System, we often refer to it as UJS, for Minnehaha County to partner with UJS on this conference. Commissioner Heiberger has served on several committees related to this and has certainly brought a passion for this topic and has gotten to know many of the players statewide, and they reached out to Commissioner Heiberger a few days ago asking if Minnehaha County would help sponsor this. I do want to say that there's no financial request that comes along with this. All they're saying is, can we put your logo on the material, and will you help make sure people know about this? So that is the request that comes today.
Any questions for Carol? If you remember, this is an item that Commissioner Heiberger had mentioned last week during her liaison reports, I believe, and so we just asked for a little more formal written information about this. So if there are no questions, I'd entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve that support for the partnership.
Second.
And a second. Any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. That takes us to item 20, liaison reports. Are there any liaison reports this morning? I would just mention that there was a meeting of a kind of initial planning group from the Homeless Advisory Board to listen to the presentation yesterday from the Augustana Research Council. A lot of great information brought forth, a lot of good comparisons to what other comparable cities are doing to address the issue of homelessness. We asked for a little bit more information. Once we get that and have an opportunity to hear that, we'll be coming forward with a formal report on that. So, and just the other item I was going to mention, since Commissioner Heiberger isn't here today, you know, I know through the budget process we've had some more information from the state's attorney's office trying to show, you know, exactly what types of responsibilities their office has. And I know this weekend with the shooting, unfortunate shooting that we had on Saturday afternoon, that has now resulted in at least one homicide, that the state's attorney's office were here all weekend and late into the night on Saturday night. I know that was mentioned in the public safety briefing yesterday, but it's just another, you know, opportunity for us to better understand the types of work that office is challenged with. So I wanted to mention that. So if there are no other liaison reports, new business, is there any new business? All right, so that takes us to old business, and I believe we're going to have a presentation from emergency management on some good news we got.
Jason Gierman, Minnehaha County Emergency Management.
I'm here today because of the disaster. You've possibly heard of the flood that happened earlier this spring. So there's two programs that we're involved with right now, and one is the individual damage assessments, the individual assistance programs, and the other is the public assistance. The public assistance is the roads, infrastructure, and what's going to happen with that is we will get with the townships and the cities and we'll have a meeting, and FEMA will be here, the state will be here, and they will walk them through the process. And that may be something that you guys might or might not want to attend, but I'll let you know when that happens. The reason I'm here today is for the individual assistance. This was one of the programs that there was no set amount that would allow us to have this, so we were unsure until just recently if we were even going to get an individual assistance. And Minnehaha County was one of the counties selected for individual assistance programs. So what the state is in the process of doing is setting up somewhere in Sioux Falls or Minnehaha County where the public can go and meet with representatives of different groups of the individual assistance program. The specifics on that we don't have yet, but they are allowed to go online at this time and apply for assistance or call a 1-800 number. The website is disasterassistance.gov, and the 800 number is 800-621-3362. There are different types of assistance, different loans, low cost. We're just not sure exactly what the programs are yet, but we're waiting to hear. Hopefully this week we'll know and be able to set up with Regan Smith and the city a spot, a location where we can go where the public can come in and get help. If there's any difficult questions, I'll probably refer him to Regan as he's been through this before.
Commissioner Barth.
What was the website again?
Disasterassistance.gov.
And the 800-621-3362, right?
Correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Madam Chair, I do have one more
Okay,
question.
Commissioner
How
Barth.
are the townships doing on getting their reports in?
They're working on them. Some townships, many of the townships have submitted. I've got a couple that haven't submitted anything, but that doesn't exclude them from the program.
There's the preliminary number and then there's a follow-on number?
Yes,
Is
then
that-
there'll be a more detailed financial reports where they need to have bids, whatever FEMA says that they need, they will have to come up with, and it's a fairly detailed process. It's different than the past. They're putting a lot more requirements on the townships. FEMA used to come and do it all, but now they're putting more responsibility back to the townships and the cities.
Any other questions? So you'll be coming back to us with some additional information when you get a date and
Yep,
set up.
and we'll put it out to the media to get everybody involved. We'll put it on our website, Twitter. The city's putting it all over their social media, so hopefully everybody will get the message and everybody will get in that can get in and get some help.
Okay. Anything else? All right, thank you very much. I appreciate you coming this morning. All right, any other old business?
I'm sure I just comment that we're still working on the budget and those meetings are open and they're actually being recorded now and you can see them on our website. And it's going to be a difficult budget year. We're very likely to be opting out for a significant amount. Pay attention, citizens, and come and see what we're working with.
All right, thank you. That next hearing is, budget hearing is next Wednesday at 8 a.m. All right, if there's nothing else, we do have an executive committee meeting today, so I'd entertain a motion to recess the Minnehaha County Commission.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. We'll take about 10 minutes and reconvene.